There's a colour that keeps appearing when films want to feel different, when they want to feel uneasy, emotional and raw, and that colour is green. Green is the most powerful colour in film, and the reason green works so well isn't because it's ugly, but because it makes a statement. It makes you watch, it changes the way the film itself feels, all of this simply because of a colour choice. Before we talk about green itself, it's worth asking a simpler question. Why does colour matter at all? Well, in film, colour isn't just decoration, it's information. We like to think we're watching films logically, following plot points, lines of dialogue, and characters. But whilst we consciously register that information, our brains are already reacting to the image, inferring meaning and creating the world of the film inside our head. And colour is one of the simplest ways to make this subconscious meaning. You don't need to understand colour theory to feel it. You don't need to consciously notice everything for it to happen. How do these images feel to you? This one feels safe. This one feels sad and distant. And this one feels isolated and empty. That reaction and subconscious understanding happens instantly, and it shapes how we experience a scene before we even hear the first line of dialogue. And that's important because film isn't real life. Every colour has been chosen, shaped and controlled. So when a filmmaker leans hard into a specific colour palette, they're not just making something look interesting, they're steering your emotions. As we saw earlier, most colours come with built-in emotional shortcuts. Blue is cold and sad, orange is warm and homely, red is intense and powerful. Green doesn't work like that. It sits in this uncomfortable middle space. On the one hand, it's the colour of life, plants, nature, growth. But then you also have the colour of sickness, decay and rot. It can mean safety or poison, calm or corruption. And within film, green becomes even stranger. It makes places feel almost inhuman, industrial, gritty. It makes it feel manufactured. Filmmakers don't use green to make the film look beautiful. They use it to make something feel wrong, to push the audience slightly out of balance, to suggest that the world isn't safe. Green has more than one meaning. It has many. Loneliness, obsession, death, decay, all within the same colour. If there's one film that truly utilises the green look, it's Fallen Angels. Wong Kar-wai and his director of photography, Christopher Doyle, created a world and a visual style that simply allows us to connect with the film even more. This isn't a film about monsters or really even about violence. It's a film about people who feel disconnected from each other, from themselves, and from the world around them. And green becomes the colour that quietly expresses all of that. The film lives in these neon-lit nights, convenience stores, empty streets, places that are technically full of light, but still feel lonely, sad, and isolated. Faces look drained, rooms feel artificial. The city feels alive, but unreachable. What's interesting is that green here doesn't tell you how to feel directly. It doesn't say this is sad or this is scary. It just removes the warmth. It creates a barrier between the characters and the world that they're moving through. And that distance matters, because Fallen Angels is a film about emotional isolation more than anything else. The characters talk, move, connect, but they rarely feel close. The green reinforces that separation. It makes intimacy feel difficult. This is where green shows its subtle power. It doesn't overwhelm the scene, but it does influence it. You don't walk away from this film thinking, wow, that looked cool. You walk away feeling kinda empty. And whilst green floods the look of Fallen Angels, there are two films that are more subtle and use green in a very different way. In Paris, Texas, green often appears quietly. It's not aggressive or stylized in the same way as Fallen Angels, but when it does appear, it creates a feeling of distance, of emotional separation. The film is full of these wide spaces and stillness, and the green tones sit within that calm. They don't push a clear meaning, they just add to that sense that the characters are slightly removed from their surroundings, and from each other. It's not a film that tells you what to feel, and the green doesn't tell you what to feel either. It just lingers, and it sets the tone for the film to speak. In Vertigo, green is far more deliberate and obvious. Here, green becomes tied to obsession, the act of trying to remake someone into something they're not. The colour follows moments when reality begins to blur, when desire overrides truth. Green signals that something is being reconstructed. It's not comforting, it's eerie. It makes the whole third act of Vertigo feel like it's just been ripped from a Frankenstein film, reforming and remaking, reanimating Judy into something that she's not. The green hue makes it look ghostly, dead, born again. And when you place these films side by side, the point becomes clearer. Green doesn't have a single meaning, it adapts. In one film it suggests emotional distance, in another it becomes the colour of obsession and rebirth. Different genres, different eras, similar effect. Up until now, green has mostly worked quietly. It's been isolating, distancing, and unsettling. But eventually green stops being passive and it starts applying pressure. This is where Saw becomes essential. In Saw, the green light is no longer just part of the image, it's part of the environment. The film is soaked in this sickly fluorescent lighting. Bathrooms, corridors, basements. Spaces that feel industrial, institutional, and completely stripped of comfort. There's nowhere warm to escape to, no visual relief, no softness at all. And the repetition of green is what makes it unbearable. It's not used for just one effect, it's used everywhere. The colour becomes inescapable, and because of that it starts to feel oppressive, like the walls are watching, like the space itself is working against the characters inside it. Green doesn't tell us that these people are in danger, it tells us that they're powerless, that the world they're trapped in isn't neutral, it's hostile. It feels engineered to wear them down, slowly, relentlessly. And that feeling doesn't come from the traps alone, it comes from the space that they're forced to exist in. This is green at its most aggressive. You can see a similar idea operating in a more restrained way in The Matrix. Before the film ever explains its premise, the green tint has already done part of the work. The world looks filtered, processed, slightly sickly. Even ordinary spaces feel monitored and artificial. You don't distrust reality because a character tells you to. You distrust it because the image never lets you settle into it. By the time we reach Saw, the colour has lost all of its subtlety. Green becomes the colour of control, of institutions, of environments that dominate the people inside of them. The audience feels that pressure too. They're not just watching characters trapped in a room. You're trapped in the same visual space. The colour closes in, the air feels stale, the world just feels rigged. And that's why Saw is such an important example here. It shows what happens when green stops suggesting discomfort and starts creating that discomfort. Green isn't just unsettling anymore, it's oppressive. And once the film reaches that point, the colour isn't supporting the horror, it is the horror. So when I say green is the most powerful colour in film, it's not because it looks the best or not because it has a fixed meaning. It's powerful because of how flexible it is. We've seen green used to express loneliness and emotional distance like in Fallen Angels. We've seen it suggest obsession and psychological instability like in Vertigo. And we've seen it become oppressive, almost suffocating in films like Saw. Different genres, different eras, different filmmakers, but the same power. Green changes how a world feels before we ever question it. That's what separates it from the other colours. Red demands attention, blue creates distance, orange brings warmth. Green doesn't tell you what to feel, it just supports and enhances what the film is already trying to say. It destabilises the image just enough to make you lean in. And because we don't naturally associate green with artificial light or interior spaces, its presence always feels slightly wrong, slightly manufactured, like something is off, even if we can't explain why. And that's why filmmakers keep returning to it, not as a shortcut, not as a trick, but as a way of shaping emotion without dialogue, without exposition, without explanation. Green works on us before we even realise that it's there. And once you start noticing it, you can't unsee it. You'll spot it in quiet character moments, in films that want to unsettle you without raising their voice. Green doesn't scream at you, it simply just lingers. It sits between life and decay, safety and sickness, comfort and unease. And in that uncomfortable middle space, it does something that no other colour quite manages to do. It changes the emotional rules of the world. It's not just another aesthetic choice, it's one that can change the whole feel and meaning of a film. So the next time you're watching a film and you feel that uneasy or strange tone, it might simply be the colours that are doing the work.